Okay, we'll start with this. Veteran fighter and former 4-division champion Roman Gonzalez took to his social media to pour cold water over any notion that he might face a fellow veteran fighter in Donaire next. Chocolatito said, on behalf of Team Chocolatito, we want to inform our fans that we have no interest at all in fighting Donaire, nor are we in talks with his team. He has no title or anything that interests us. Therefore, we wish him luck in retirement and God bless.
There was a tone there.
I wouldn't call the statement disrespect, as no disrespect was implied, but there was a smidge, a hint of disdain.
Scoffing at the idea that they would fight, that they should fight.
So much emphasis on having no interest at all in doing that fight. In truth,
it's not a bad idea, but it was never Chocolatito's idea, and it was never a fight I saw Chocolatito express any interest in having. Chocolatito returned to action earlier this year in July in his native Nicaragua opposite the ring Robert Barrera in the Bantamweight division, where he scored a 10th round knockout.
Saw the fight on ESPN Plus here in America. It was a good watch and a fun fight, but you could see that Chocolatito was noticeably slower, a little flatter, not as sharp. Some of that is age, that he's 37 years old, and some of it is that he hadn't fought in over a year, that he sat out all of last year, so he had some ring rust to shake off.
Sat out for a year and a half.
And he's poured cold water on any notion that he might fight Donaire next. He's not interested, but what is he interested in doing then? Why has he come back at 37 years old? Where is he going to campaign moving forward? So his last fight was fought at 118 pounds, bantamweight.
But on the premise that he's set to drop down to 115, super flyweight.
There are 3 champions there right now at super flyweight. 2-division champion Bam Rodriguez and Fernando Martinez, as well as Japan's own 4-division champion Kosei Tanaka. Kosei has the WBO. By now, I think we all know that there's no chance of a Chocolatito versus Bam Rodriguez fight happening, as they're good buddies and all of that.
They ain't gonna fight.
I think that a Fernando Martinez fight is a little bit more viable, but it's also dangerous. It would be very dangerous for a 37-year-old Chocolatito to take on a guy like that, a physical guy like that throws punches and bunches.
This isn't super flyweight. This is all on the premise that Chocolatito means to return to the super flyweight division, that he would move down. If he did, I think the most viable fight for him would be the Kosei Tanaka fight.
The real value in a Kosei Tanaka fight, I'd say, is in Japan. Not in trying to bring Kosei here to America to do it here, but for Chocolatito to travel there. And Chocolatito is no stranger to Japan. He's no stranger to the land of the rising sun. He spent a number of years there, fought a couple of times there.
Under the Taken Promotions banner. I saw the Taken banner at Chocolatito's fight in Nicaragua, the one earlier this year, so that relationship still exists.
Still there. That if what Chocolatito plans to do is fight for a world title one more time, one more world title run, and he means to return to super flyweight to do it, the most viable fight, I think, the most viable would be a Kosei Tanaka fight. That's if he drops down. If he stays put, if he stays where he is at 118 pounds.
There are 4 champions at bantamweight, 4 champions at 118 pounds. Takuma Inoue, who holds the WBA, Junto Nakatani, who holds the WBC, Ryosuke Nishida, who holds the IBF, and Yoshiki Takai, who holds the WBO.
Now, I would advise Chocolatito, if he's going to stay at 118 pounds, to steer clear of Junto Nakatani. That is a far too dangerous fight for Chocolatito at this stage and at this age.
Kid's too big, he's too sharp, punches too hard.
It's too dangerous for Chocolatito, that's just the truth. Takuma Inoue, that is a slightly more winnable fight.
More winnable than the Junto Nakatani fight.
More winnable than that fight. But if we're talking about Chocolatito's very best chance to pick up an alphabet title at 118, he shouldn't target those 2 guys, not those 2. He should target the other 2 champions at the weight, Ryosuke Nishida, who's got the IBF, and Yoshiki Takai, who's got the WBO. The reason for it is because both of those guys only have 9 professional fights.
Ryosuke Nishida only has 9 fights and 1 recorded knockout, just 1. Yoshiki Takai, who punches a little harder, he's got 9 fights, just 9, with 8 knockouts. So the edge Chocolatito would have in those fights is that he would have a lot more experience, a lot more rounds in the bank, and toughness than those fighters.
Those champions.
Chocolatito would have a noticeable edge in experience, and at his age, he needs every edge he can get, every advantage.
37 years old. 37 really isn't old for, say, a heavyweight. You know, in the land of the big men, 37 ain't that old. But at Superfly, Bantam, just those lower weights.
And what's Chocolatito got? Something like 56 professional bouts? He's up there in age, he's weathered, and if what he means to do is have one more world title run, try to win a title at 118, he would sooner win one from Ryosuke Nishida or Yoshiki Takai than from the other two champions at the weight. Now, I don't know if that's what he's trying to do.
I don't know what he's trying to do. I just know that he came back earlier this year and he's up to something.
If he wants to stay at 118, I'd give him decent odds to beat the both of those fighters, the both of those champions.
In any event, he's made it clear. He has no intention of fighting Nonito Donaire. He's not interested, but what he is interested in, that's a mystery.
We'll find out.
That Tszyu and Alalshikh has sent out in regarding, he said there's something unclear with the communications from his team, referring to your team, and his team. So I believe we'll reconsider his situation in regards to future fights. Do you know anything that he's talking about there, or can you clear that up from your end?
From my end, I can't really comment. My team's in town this week, so hopefully, maybe there's been some miscommunication from both sides, but hopefully they can sit down and discuss about what's to plan in the future.
In your mind, are you keen to work with him in the future? Like, would it be a disaster if that kind of door was closed in your mind?
No, I'd love to work with him, because I like what he's about. He's all about making the big fights happen.
Seemingly a ray of hope that all is not lost between Tszyu and Alalshikh and Tim Tszyu.
That they could still work something out, because this weekend, when His Excellency was in attendance for Ortiz versus Bohachuk, he said that he's not going to be working with Tim.
It was all very vague, and there was a lot left to the imagination, a miscommunication. What could have been said? What was the miscommunication? Whatever it was, Turkey was of the opinion he's not going to be working with Tim moving forward. And we know that Tim, he's under orders to take on reigning IBF champion Bakram Murtazaliev, which is fortuitous for him. As soon as he lost his world title, that's as soon as he was able to get another one.
So what do you think happened?
If I had to guess, I would guess that maybe what Turkey wanted to do was use Tim in one of the shows he's going to do in the fall, or the winter.
If I had to guess.
Where Tim's promoter, No Limit Promotions, had other plans. Plans to face Erickson Lubricant, who then became Bakram Murtazaliev, a world title shot at Bakram.
If I had to guess.
So when Turkey sees that the Tim Tszyu team are unwilling to work with him at this time, at this moment, maybe he didn't like that, maybe?
I'm not sure. I'm just bouncing ideas around. But what we do know is an order from the IBF came down ordering Bakram to fight Tim. And that is a good opportunity for Tim to get a world title in his hands, because I think he can win that fight.
Especially in Australia. It's about time that Tim started using his star power to his advantage, because it just never made any sense to me for a fighter of his stature and drawing power to be fighting at the Armory in Minneapolis.
Flying out to fight people like Terrell Gausha, Keith Thurman, Sebastian Fundora, it doesn't make sense. Those are the kind of people that should be flying out to Tim, not the other way around.
I've said that before. So now they're looking at a world title shot at some point next month. Then with any hope, he might go into business with Turkey for a Virgil Ortiz fight, or maybe a Terence Crawford fight. Tim Tszyu didn't close the door. It is a fluid situation that he might go into business with Turkey at some point next year, or he might pursue the winner of Fundora versus Spence next year, particularly Sebastian Fundora, to have a rematch with him. That's a possibility.
Can't rule that out.
The guys that Tim Tszyu may end up fighting next year, he might end up fighting Terence Crawford, he might end up fighting Virgil Ortiz, or he may end up fighting Sebastian Fundora for a second time.
The Crawford and Ortiz fights would be the fights that involve Tszyu and Alalshikh. Those would be the fights where he gets involved.
Where the Fundora fight wouldn't require any involvement from Turkey. That's an in-house situation, PBC in-house affair. Looking at it through that lens, either the Crawford fight or the Ortiz fight might offer up more money than a Fundora rematch.
Because Turkey would be paying for those fights, whereas Sebastian, God bless him, he's not a big ticket seller in America. He's not a big draw. Barely anybody bought his fight with Tim. I don't know if they're going to buy a rematch. If I had to guess, I'd say no.
As good as it is, and the precedent set by the first fight, I can't tell you that's a hot ticket. I don't think it is.
It's a good fight.
But I don't think it's a hot ticket.
So if it's about getting the most bang for your buck, you could get that with Turkey fighting Terence Crawford or Virgil Ortiz. I don't think the door is closed. I don't think the door is closed for Tim to work something out with Turkey, because if nothing else, Turkey wants to get Terence big fights. The opportunity to become a 3-time undisputed champion. A part of that is facing the winner of Tszyu versus Murtazaliev, who I think is going to beat Tim Tszyu. He's a part of that picture.
You know, I saw Frank Warren offer up Hamza Sheeraz for Terence Crawford, saying that if Crawford wants to move up to middleweight, he'd be willing to make a Sheeraz fight. But why the hell would Terence Crawford fight Hamza Sheeraz?
Huh?
For what? Hamza's not a champion.
What the hell's Frank talking about?
Maybe that's just Frank's way of getting Hamza some additional promotion for a fight he knows isn't going to happen, because Hamza doesn't have anything that Terence Crawford wants. He's not a champion.
But Tim Tszyu might be.
Very soon, when he faces Bakram Murtazaliev in a fight that I anticipate he's going to win, that does bring Tim back into the frame, back into the picture, the world title picture. Ow! Finally, in men's super middleweight news, Canelo Alvarez has said he believes his career would have been even more successful if he'd been with Al Haymon's PBC from the start rather than Oscar De La Hoya's Golden Boy. I think I would have done better with PBC. Way better. I did good things with Golden Boy, and I'm not mad at that, but I think it would have been better with the PBC. This was on the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast with Gilly the Kid and Waylo.
The rift between Canelo and Oscar is causing the both of them to say some silly things, some very silly things.
In an effort to undermine each other. We know that Oscar takes every opportunity to undermine Canelo as a fighter and his legacy, and it seems that Canelo is undermining his ability to promote fighters. I don't think Canelo would have been better off with the PBC, because for starters, the PBC wasn't around.
They literally didn't exist.
When Canelo Alvarez jumped into bed with Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy, there was no PBC to partner up with. No, the PBC doesn't come into it till way later. In 2014, 2015, that's when Al Haymon funneled those 200 fighters from Golden Boy over to what became his PBC. That doesn't happen until Canelo's already in bed with Golden Boy.
Right?
So here's a perspective. Here's a perspective that's lost on a lot of people. When Floyd Mayweather left Top Rank, where did he go? He went to Golden Boy. The money, May persona, all of that started up at Golden Boy.
Why do you think it was Golden Boy cutting him the checks? Why do you think their insignia was on there?
And he was with them for a number of years and a number of fights. If the people at Golden Boy are so bad at their job, why did Floyd go over there?
Al Haymon was over there.
And when Al Haymon funneled those 200 fighters, that entire stable, from Golden Boy Promotions over to what became his PBC, you tell me, which one of those fighters did he turn into a draw? Which one turned out to be as big a draw as Canelo?
Since you think he would have done a better job.
Which one of Al Haymon's fighters did Al turn into as big a draw as Canelo? Which? Not Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder never cracked 1 million buys.
Not Errol Spence. Errol Spence never cracked 1 million buys.
Not David Benavidez. He's been on pay-per-view twice. He never came close to cracking 1 million buys. He never came close to cracking 500,000 buys.
Now, Gervonta Davis, he did crack 1 million buys, but with the help of who? With the help of Ryan Garcia. And who promotes Ryan?
Golden Boy Promotions promotes Ryan. Oscar promotes Ryan. And Ryan by himself, as bizarre and erratic and unstable as he is a bigger draw and a better promoted fighter than most PBC fighters, than damn near all PBC fighters, save the one that beat him.
But the one that beat him, Gervonta Davis, is he as big a draw as Canelo?
No, nowhere near. He's only ever sold 1 million buys once, and that was with the help of a Golden Boy Promotions fighter, whereas Canelo, he's been a part of pay-per-views that cracked 1 million more than once.
The Floyd Mayweather fight, promoted by Golden Boy, that did well over 1 million.
All 3 Golovkin fights, the whole trilogy, did over 1 million buys.
The Miguel Cotto fight did close to 1 million at 900,000 pay-per-view buys. This is the handiwork of Golden Boy Promotions, whether Canelo wants to acknowledge it or not. That for all of Oscar's faults and all of Golden Boy's drawbacks, they do a better job of promoting their fighters than the PBC, if you can believe that.
It's the truth. It's the absolute truth. And what Canelo's saying, it actually applies in reverse. That if, say, David Benavidez would have came up through Golden Boy instead of the PBC, I absolutely think he would be a bigger draw and a bigger star than he is right now.
Oh, yeah.
Errol Spence, too. Most people don't remember that a long time ago, Golden Boy offered Errol Spence the scalp of Miguel Cotto, then WBO junior middleweight champion, and he rejected the fight. He turned it down. I happen to think Errol would have sold more fighting Cotto than what he sold fighting Mikey Garcia, in his pay-per-view debut.
Oh, yeah.
Golden Boy isn't perfect, and neither is Oscar, but for all of their faults and drawbacks, they're in better shape right now than the PBC. So not only have they been around longer than the PBC, but they currently have more stability than the PBC. The PBC are doing less and less shows.
That can't be because of what a great job they're doing.
And they are losing fighters, have been losing fighters in droves that have been going to other promotional outfits.
That can't be because of what a great job they're doing.
I don't think Al Heyman ever had the know-how to do the job with Canelo that Oscar and Golden Boy did with Canelo, because Oscar lived it. Oscar's been through it. He's been there. An Olympic gold medalist and a sensation in the pros.
He had the experiences to draw from that gave him the know-how.
What experiences did Al Heyman have to draw from? A failed music guy who transitioned into boxing?
He's been kicked off of how many networks now?
Canelo can say what he wants. I don't agree with him, and I don't think it's true. And the only reason I think he's saying it is to undermine Oscar and take shots at Oscar, because Oscar's always taking shots at him.
That's it.
Oscar takes shots at Canelo as a fighter, and Canelo takes shots at Oscar as a promoter.
That's what I think he's really doing.